I've just completed a cruise on board the world's newest cruise ship, the Margaritaville at Sea Islander, and I have to admit, I am legitimately shocked at the overall experience. In this video, I will be going over the good, the bad, the ugly, the pricing, the food, the entertainment, the whole enchilada, if you will. However, before we get started, I do have to put a little disclaimer out there. Do be mindful of the fact that this was a maiden voyage, aka the first cruise ever with paying passengers. There are going to be things that are not working, kinks that need to be ironed out. However, that being said, there are some things that are understandable and some things that are not, considering people did indeed pay money, top dollar some people, to get on board. Number two, also be mindful of the fact that in this video I will be going over my personal experience and opinions, as well as the opinions of others that I talk to, dozens of people, which I do go out of my way to do on every cruise, to include in this video. You may go on this ship and have a completely different experience depending on your personal preferences, so if there is something in this video that you don't like or you don't want to believe because you are a Margaritaville faithful or a parrot head, then unfortunately you are going to have to suck it up on this one. To give you a brief overview of the company as well as the cruise ship that I will be sailing on, while the Margaritaville brand has been around since the 1980s, they wouldn't launch their low-cost cruise line until 2022, so it is a 2-year-old cruise line. They would start out with the formerly known 1991 built Bahamas Paradise Grand Classica and transform it to the Margaritaville at Sea Paradise. The ship that I will be sailing on would be the second ever for the brand. The Margaritaville at Sea Islander launched in June of 2024. While this ship may be new to Margaritaville, it's not a new ship. Initially built in the year 2000, back then it was owned by the Carnival Corporation's Italian line Costa Cruises, named the Costa Atlantica. The newly renovated Islander holds just over 2,100 passengers at full capacity, has 12 decks, 3 pools including an adult-only pool, 13 themed bars, each with its own style of margarita, and is currently completing 4 and 5 night sailings out of Tampa, Florida, going to Cozumel, Mexico, Key West, Florida, with plans to do 7-day sailing starting in 2025. For my cruise, I will be booking a Grand Terrace suite. This is one of the largest rooms on board at 365 square feet, costing just under $2,000 after I added on the ultimate beverage package. However, there are cheaper rooms, believe it or not, in the range of the $200 to $500 per person, if that's something that you will be interested in. On top of the $250 drink package that was available, there were other add-ons like the Ultimate Islander Escape package, which included a little bit of everything: priority boarding, dining, a $150 credit over at the spa, and so much more. But you could also purchase all of these things separate. Upon arrival to the port of Tampa, which is about a 5-minute drive from me, I live right in downtown Tampa, I would get there at around 11 a.m. to board the Islander. Once I arrived, there was a decent amount of congestion in the line. Do keep in mind they are trying to figure out the system of how they're going to get people in and out, but there was a lot of confusion over there. Seeing that I did indeed purchase a suite, I was supposed to get priority boarding. There was no line or any indication of where I was supposed to go. I would ask some of the employees over there and they had no idea where I was supposed to go. They told me I would stay in the general line. I asked about 3 different people and eventually they told me that I indeed did have priority boarding. Once inside the terminal, I would talk to the customer service at the desk and they couldn't find my confirmation number. This is something that does happen from time to time, but it did kind of keep me from boarding the ship an extra hour or so. Even though there were a couple hiccups in the terminal, the staff there were calm, cool, collected, and professional. I also like that in the terminal they had a desk in the event that you wanted to make some last-minute purchases, from the drink package to the Wi-Fi. Very convenient. And of course they had a photo booth. Once on board, I would end up in the atrium area located on deck 2, and I gotta admit, I was shocked with all of the details and designs that were put into that specific area. Of course, you had the iconic, legendary Jimmy Buffett flip-flop, and you could tell that Margaritaville at Sea had put a lot of time into that area. Now, I didn't stay too long. I did take a look at the excursions desk that was located there, as well as the customer service, and from there, I would go check out my suite. I did take the elevator up to my suite on deck 6, and I was surprised to see that even with tons of people boarding and the ship being 25 years old, the elevators were overall pretty speedy on board. I would be in Grand Terrace Suite 6170, located in the middle of the ship. Upon arrival, I didn't really know what to expect when it came to my suite. However, I was taken aback because the room overall was pretty nice. It was reasonably technologically advanced. There were plugs and USB ports. There was plenty of closet space. The bathroom was nice. It came complete with a tub and vanity mirror mirrors. Really, the only cons that I had about the room was that the bed was a little too firm for my liking. I felt like I was sleeping on a rock, but I do know some people like those kind of beds. It's their preference. As far as the balcony, it was big, but you could tell that it hadn't been updated. It really did show the ship's age. There was also a really loud vent that never turned off just above the vanity mirror by the bathroom, but overall, the room was not bad. I loved it. I did hear a couple complaints from other guests about the outlets potentially not working, the water not working, the toilet not flushing. However, the only thing I really experienced was that there was a 15-minute delay the first time I flushed the toilet. However, after I took my shower, got dressed, and I was about to head out my room, it finally flushed, and I had no problems throughout the remainder of the cruise. While exploring the Margaritaville at Sea Islander to gather up some first impressions, I gotta say I was impressed. You can tell that there was a lot of time, effort, and money put into the ship. It looked very modernized and very well designed with artwork everywhere. Going to the pool deck, it was divided into two areas primarily. The main Lido deck, there was the Margaritaville side and the Islander side, each with its own separate bar. Each came with its own hot tub, a pool, which I thought was very well and neatly designed. The area was nice. The only con that I would have aside from the pool is that I wish they had more lounging and seating areas over there. On the upper decks, there were a lot more lounging areas. They also had an adult only area in the back that was very nice and spacious. I did spend a lot of time over there. They had a nice giant tiki bar, and it seemed like overall there wasn't a fight for lawn chairs or anything like that. They also had a kid area right up above, complete with a slide and a playground area. It was very nicely done. On the lower decks, the first thing I noticed is that there were a lot of nooks and crannies, a lot of lounging areas, a lot of bars, but this ship immediately reminded me of a older Carnival ship in a way. It was tacky, but at the same time beautifully designed. Of course, before the cruise started and the sail away festivities began, all passengers were required to check into their muster station for their muster drill, and I was surprised to see that Margaritaville was still doing it the old school way, and wished at one point in time they have all the passengers go down and cram up like sardines in a specific area, with the exception of them having to wear a life vest. It wasn't a big deal, but most cruise lines these days just do everything digital, where you watch a video, you go down and scan your card and check in, and after that you're done. I do hope that Margaritaville adopts this process soon, because while it's not a big deal, it is something that can definitely affect the overall experience for passengers. The sail away party was not bad at all. It had potential. Think of a smaller version of Carnival sail away party with all of the dance trends that are going on and people having a good time. People were shaking a tail feather and gyrating. I got into a breakdance battle. Everything was going perfectly fine, at least until I got my first drink, or tried to. Even though I had the drink package, I was told that if I wanted a drink, I would have to pay for it. Why? Because I didn't get my designated green dot on my ID card, which is something I had heard nothing about. Apparently, other people found out by going to the bar as soon as they got on board, and there was a massive line where everybody had to go down to the casino that had a drink package to confirm that they had a drink package, and I had no idea why, at least until I got down there. It turns out that the system that determines who has the drink package and who doesn't was unfortunately down. The entire system to scan cards was also down. So the crew unfortunately had to manually write down who got a drink, that way they could charge it to the account. I wouldn't find this out until I got down to the casino area, to the bar, and from there, it wasn't too bad. I got my green sticker, and just like that, I was good to go. When I finally went to get my first drink, there was something that I noticed. It took me quite a while to get a drink, and there wasn't a lot of people there. It became obvious to me that the ship appeared to be understaffed. Not by a lot, I wouldn't say extremely, but there was definitely a shortage of crew members, and you could see that they were a little stressed and a little overwhelmed, especially considering their systems were down. They had to input everything manually. Nevertheless, the drinks were reasonably priced. I wouldn't say Carnival prices, maybe $1 or $2 above. I saw around the average price anywhere between $12 to $15 per drink, and I became obsessed with a drink over in the Lido area at the Margaritaville bar called Tranquil Waters. Absolutely delicious. You should try it if you ever get on board. While on board, I did of course purchase Wi-Fi. They did have, I believe, 4 different options. They had a basic and premium by the day and a basic and premium for the entire cruise. I would purchase the premium at $80 for the entire cruise, and I gotta say, it was definitely hit or miss. Sometimes at some point in some part of the ship, I would have absolutely flawless, amazing Wi-Fi where I could make FaceTime calls and all that jazz, and then out of nowhere, it would just stop working for a few hours. Do keep in mind that this Wi-Fi issue, as well as the issue with the credit cards, potentially can happen at any point in time. However, I would always say when it comes to issues such as this, there are people that are paying good money to have this service, and when it doesn't deliver, I am not one to complain, but I do understand those out there that do. These two issues were problems that were prominent throughout the entirety of the cruise. However, I would assume that for future sailings, if you happen to go on the Margaritaville at Sea Islander, it is something that will be fixed. When it came down to the overall demographic and audience on board, I was pleasantly surprised. There were, of course, inexperienced cruisers, the parrot heads, experienced cruisers, those that exclusively sail with Carnival until this point, those that exclusively sail with Celebrity and Royal Caribbean. Overall, everybody got along just fine. We're very friendly, with the exception of a decent amount of people that weren't too happy with these slow bars on board, the understaffing, and the other issues that took place. But this is to be expected considering most people are only able to go on a cruise once or twice a year. I don't agree with the disrespecting of the crew members. However, it was something that was kind of baked in the cake, seeing the issues that were apparent. Getting into the food, I have to admit, it was not too bad. There were some problems I'll talk about here in a second, but going into the buffet, there wasn't a huge selection like you typically see on board cruise ships, but the food that was there was not too bad. It was at least better than the first Margaritaville Edge Sea cruise ship, the Paradise, where the food kind of reminded me of when I worked on board cruise ships. So we had the crew mess with the mystery meat and rice. They had something of a, think of Carnival, the Guy's Burgers. They had a burger joint over there. The burgers were not bad. I wouldn't put them at Guy's Burger level if you had them. However, it is slightly, only slightly below. The burgers there were good. They had something that you would see on Carnival ships like the Blue Iguana Cantina. I forgot the name of it. I do apologize, but the burritos and tacos over there were also equally as good. While the buffet closed at approximately 9:30 p.m. every night, there was a pizza place located near the back of the ship that was open until 2 a.m. and was the only food option really outside of room service. The pizza in and of itself was not bad. It was a little small in my opinion, but decent. If I had to give you an idea, it wasn't better than Carnival's pizza, at least when it came to pirate pizza, not the newer ships where they have like the Miami slice and all that. It was not better than Royal Caribbean's pizza at Sorrento's, not better at Virgin's pizza. However, it was tolerable and decent, and I went a couple times to get some. I also had some sushi while I was on board. It's in a very random place near the casino attached to another bar. Not bad at all. Unfortunately, I didn't go to the steakhouse on board, nor the main dining. I tried. However, unfortunately, and I do believe it's because of the understaffing, they didn't have space available. I told them it was just me. However, when I looked at both of these venues, they were both maybe 50 or 60% full. I have gone to the steakhouse on board the first ship, the Margaritaville at Sea Paradise. Very delicious, and I heard good things about the main dining room as well. Going over the entertainment, I know everybody's favorite category. I have to admit, because you guys know as a former entertainer working on cruise ships, Harlem Globetrotters, theme parks, I can be very picky about the entertainment on board cruise ships. But I have to admit, I was pleasantly surprised. They say at times you get what you pay for. I do believe that the entertainment went above and beyond. When it came to the production shows, they put on a different production show pretty much every day, and they were all absolutely amazing. I even got to meet some of the cast. I have some friends of mine that also work on board. It was a really cool experience. They also had a bunch of different bands and variety acts, and I'll be honest with you, all I was saying to myself was thank goodness. Don't get me wrong, I love Jimmy Buffett, may he rest in peace. I love the Parrot Head Margaritaville music, but they didn't just play that on board. They had all different genres and all different types to keep everybody entertained on board. Of course, they also had your cruise favorites like your bingo, your mini golf, and a nightclub. I did love the nightclub a lot. It kind of gave like this downstairs basement type feel. The music was good. A lot of people were in there shaking a tail feather of all different ages and demographics, gyrating and all that. But the only problem that I had with the nightclub was that there was no security manning the nightclub, meaning there were potentially some people in there that were underage that shouldn't have been there. I do hope Margaritaville changes that, because that's something that could get out of hand and cause problems very quickly and easily. As far as our port stop, we will be traveling to Cozumel, Mexico, which you guys know I never mind. I love me some Cozumel, Mexico. I go there when I'm not on a cruise, when I'm on a cruise. I will never hate on Cozumel, Mexico, but I did use that time to hang out with some friends that live on the island when I go visit, and I uploaded a lot of videos using the good Wi-Fi guy that was there. It was also Father's Day, so I had a ton of calls to make, and we did get a little bit of extra time. I was communicating with some friends of mine on board the ship, and the ship had to do some extra navigation because unfortunately there was a storm in the path of where we had to go to, so the ship didn't leave until about an hour and a half after we were initially supposed to board at 3:30. Nevertheless, we did unfortunately get a little caught up in the storm, and the ship was listing, leaning over to one side for most of it, causing a lot of people to get seasick, and they were pretty much in their rooms most of the day. But I do got to give a shout out to the captain and staff on board that were extremely accommodating and making sure everybody knew that everything was fine, everybody's going to be safe. They even put out green apples and barf bags for everybody to make sure that if they needed something, as far as maybe something to eat quickly to soothe their stomach, or maybe they had to unleash what was ever in their stomach, they were prepared. Once the cruise had concluded and we arrived back to Tampa, the disembarkation process was pretty expeditious. I did have a suite, meaning I had priority disembarkation. There was a little confusion as far as where I was supposed to go, but other than that, I do believe that most of the people were able to get off, get their luggage, and go home very smoothly. As far as any other miscellaneous things, I do have two things that I do want to mention about this cruise. A lot of people talk about Margaritaville, nickeling, and diming. I didn't see too much of that. They did try to upsell you, of course, in most categories, like most cruise lines do, outside of maybe like a premium, but even then there are plenty of things that you can buy on board. However, I would remind all of you on any cruise ship to always double check, triple check your charges. A problem that Margarita has that there is no app, so if you want to see what your charges are, you have to manually walk over to customer service and get a printout of your bank statement. I did hear that upgrades are coming from Margaritaville, including an app and them having your TV be able to show your bank statement, which will be very convenient for a lot of people, myself included. I do like to kind of keep tabs on how much money I'm spending while on board. Another problem that I noticed was that at the pool area, there are no lifeguards. They seem to have the towel guys that are there that are kind of like a if something happens lifeguards. They need to fix that because that is, in my opinion, a problem also waiting to happen. Overall, if I had to be 100% honest with all of you, I legitimately enjoyed my time on board, and I will be going back very soon. Outside of the operational and technical issues, they are figuring out a formula that works, and the fact that they are very cost effective, a quick sail away out of Tampa where I live to go over to Cozumel or Key West, I will jump on it once a week if I feel like it. Well, I don't know about once a week, but I'm definitely going to go back, I want to say in another couple months, and enjoy the experience all over again. Would I put them in the category of, and I mean no disrespect by this, but a real cruise line? No, they aren't there yet. They only have 2 ships. However, I've heard through the grapevine that they are trying to get anywhere between 6 to 8 ships between now and 2030. That is, of course, a very aggressive move, and that would be great for not only Margaritaville, but the brand as a whole. The ship in and of itself, this one anyway, the Islander, if I had to compare it to another cruise ship, I would say it was indeed better than the Carnival Paradise that also sails out of Tampa, as well as the Carnival Conquest. Anyway, that's what I have for my Margaritaville at Sea Islander review. Of course, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and as usual, I love and appreciate every single one of you. Thanks for watching, take it easy, and remember, it's 5 o'clock somewhere.